It's time for another project pan update, and I feel like I've done really, really well this past month. I think you're going to be able to see the progress on every single product, and I was even able to finish a product so I can bring in a new one to replace it and keep the rolling project pan going. I think I'm going to stick with like 8 products. I think that's a pretty good number for me, and one of them is a palette. It's an eyeshadow quad, and so it's kind of like my version of a pan that palette. I am going to start with the quad. It's the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk quad, and I believe in my last update I was going to try and hit pan on the bottom matte shade, and I didn't do that, but I used it almost every single day that I wore eye makeup, and I'll show you the numbers of how many times I used each shade in the quad. Both of the eyeshadows that I already had pan in, I was able to really expand them, and now I'm just working with whatever is left in the corners. And while I can't say for certain that I'll finish either one of them next month, that will be one of my goals. I think maybe the sparkly topper shade. I think I'll try to focus on that one more and see if I can get a bigger dent and maybe finish it the month after that. Like I'm really getting close to the point where I'm actually going to be finishing shadows, and I'm really excited. And of course I still do want to try to hit pan on that brown shade just because I think that one's going to take me the longest, and so I want to make sure it's always a focused shadow even if I'm not reaching for every single shade in the quad. If I'm doing an eyeshadow look and I can bring in a matte brown, I'm going to try to reach for this one. So yeah, I want to try to maybe finish half of what I have left of that sparkly topper shade and hit pan on that brown shade by next month. I have quite a few Charlotte Tilbury products only because I have a lot of products from that brand and they are sort of getting older. They're starting to become the oldest products in my collection, so I'd like to focus on them before they expire. One of them is one of my oldest products that I have, and that is the highlighter from the Charlotte Tilbury Film Star Bronze and Glow Duo. And I had pan on it last month. I do think I've expanded the pan quite a bit. I went through just under half a gram in a month's time, and I did try to reach for this every single time I wore highlighter. It is a really beautiful, easy to wear highlighter. I am wearing it today, but I also have the glowy blush on, so not all of that shine is just from the highlighter. It's nice and subtle, and so I use a little bit of a fluffier brush, a little bit of a softer brush to kind of go on top, and I do a little bit around my brow bone, just kind of like this area here, to add a really pretty glow, and it looks beautiful. It pretty much goes with every look already, so it's not hard to reach for, and I am glad I've gone back and started reaching for this again because it was a favorite for a long time. I can't really give you an update for how long I think it's going to take me to really realistically finish this. Maybe within a couple of months I'll be really close. I mean, I'll definitely have it done by the end of the year. I just don't know how long it's going to take me to get to that point. The next Charlotte Tilbury product is the contour wand. I'm in the shade Fair Medium, and I am thinning out the packaging quite a bit, and I did reach for this pretty much every time I did my makeup again. I'm wearing it today a little bit, but I really don't use much, and like I said in my last update, I squeeze it out, and the product that's left on the little sponge on the tip is enough to last me for like another week or so. And so I'm not like going through and taking a ton of product every single time. I don't really feel like I need it for that, especially with contour. I'd rather be more subtle. So yeah, just trucking along on this one. I don't think that this is close to expiring necessarily, but it is a product that I do need to remember to incorporate into my routine, so I put it in the project pan just to make sure I don't forget about it. My next product is a blush from Milani. It's in the shade Luminoso, another one of my oldest makeup products that I have. I am very happy to report that I hit pan on it. Finally, I did not know if this day would ever come. It took me 181 uses in order to hit pan. 181 uses. And now that I have hit pan, I can very easily see that there is very little product left. And so I'm gonna say 2 months. I'm gonna say this will be done by the end of April. That feels really good. I have not finished a full-size powder blush in a long time, and I really love that, especially for this time of year. I think it does go with the more springy looks that I'm going for. I am wearing it today, and it's just really pretty, and I love that it's glowy and has that beautiful peachy undertone. I'm really loving it. But I do have other peachy blushes in my collection. I'm not going to be left wanting once this one is gone. The next product that I also think can be done in the next 2 months' time, if not less time than that, is the Nabla Ombre Bronzer. I have hit the waffle pan, and now I just have some product in the corners and then between the little grid packaging in the bottom, and I'm having a lot of trouble getting a lot of product out, so I do have to kind of keep going back in with my brush. I use a bigger, fluffier brush. This is a little bit scratchier too, and so I can apply some pressure and pick up product, but I do kind of have to go in a couple of times every time I apply, just because a lot isn't coming off on the brush anymore. Also, it's gotten to a point where I take the back of that brush and I scrape a tiny bit of one of the corners, and then I use that product as a bronzer. And that's been helping me get product out of the container without ruining my bristles on my brush. I have gotten a ton of really great use and value out of this bronzer, so I'm not super concerned about getting every teeny tiny little speck of product out of here. Even though I do enjoy it, I have lots of other bronzers I can use. I don't need to spend a ton of effort and time trying to get every last bit out of here. I'm gonna wear it for the next month and see how far along we are. If it gets to a point where I am really struggling to get any product on my brush, I might just call it done then. This next one, I am to the point where I'm actually digging into the product container to get more highlighter out. This is Merit Kava, by the way, and this was the one I was the most concerned about expiring quickly before I got a chance to finish it, just because I felt like the scent and the formula had changed a little bit. I've had this for just around a year now. I don't know how deep inside the product this goes. Like, I don't know how much is left after I start digging it out. Can you see that line where it's like darker on the top and then it gets lighter? Probably right around here. So that really isn't a ton of product left, especially considering I have already started digging out the product. Again, I use this on my cheekbones, on the high points of my face, underneath foundation as a moisturizing primer, and I also use it as a mixer to create cream blushes. And so sometimes I even use it twice when I'm doing my makeup, and sometimes I just use it once. It really depends on what mood I'm in. So I think if I continue going through it at the rate that I have been going through it since starting to focus on it, I think it could be done next month. The next one I feel good about, it's the No Filter Setting Mist from ColourPop. I think this is the mattifying version. I am so appreciative to the people that left comments saying that if I wanted to get the powder that settles at the bottom out, I could pour this setting spray into a second container, rinse out the bottom, and then put it back in here. And now this is infinitely easier to use. I love it. I love that I don't have like weird settling of stuff at the bottom. I don't have to like make sure it's shaken and all mixed together before I apply it. I even think I like the setting spray better now that there isn't any of that powder in it. I'm really glad that people told me to do that. I don't know why I didn't think to do it myself. And that likely has to do with some of the weight change as well, because I'm sure that powder weighed something. So it says I went through 19.5 grams, which does seem like a lot, but if I'm using it every day, then maybe it's not that much, and probably the powder is accounting for some of that. So I feel good. I'm now at the point where I'm just under or just at the very bottom of the letter R. The next one I finished, and it is the Jelly Pop Primer from e.l.f. It's a really sticky formula. If you're familiar with what this feels like, it's very sticky, and I didn't want to cut through the packaging to get everything out. And this is an airtight packaging, air sealed or whatever it's called. And so after a while I couldn't pump any more out, and it really doesn't look like there's anything left in there. So that's great. It makes me feel like even if I did cut it open, there wouldn't even be enough for a full application anyway. And so I'm really glad to have this out. I wanted to use this during the drier, colder months because it is a more moisturizing formula, at least for me. And so I wanted to wear it when my skin wasn't as oily. And now that it's gone, I am going to move a different primer in. This one is the Charlotte Tilbury Brightening Youth Glow. It says it's a color correcting glowy primer. And I'm using this just as a regular primer under my foundation today, and I think it's beautiful. Sometimes I use it as a mixer, like if I'm using a concealer or like foundation drops or a concentrated formula and I want to sheer it out and make it a little bit more skin-like as a foundation, I'll mix this in with it. So there is a diamond on the packaging that has the Charlotte Tilbury logo on it, and I think my product level where I'm starting is right at the top of that diamond. But yeah, again, I'll just use it sometimes as a regular primer or as a foundation mixer. And for this one, we're starting at 41.76 grams. So that is all my progress so far for this month. I'm feeling really good about this Merit highlighter for next month, and maybe the bronzer as well. So I'm not sure if I'll roll in products that are the same category. Like if I use up a bronzer, I'll bring in another bronzer. I'm not really sure. I'll have to take a look and see what my oldest makeup products are that I would like to focus on. I do have a ton of products that I'm just finishing organically, and so stay tuned. I have a really big empties video coming up. If it's not already up, it'll be up very soon, and there are going to be a ton of additional makeup empties in there that haven't been featured in a project pan. But that's it for me. That's everything I have. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in my next video.